Good morning, guys, from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It's currently around 5:30 a.m. in the morning. Why am I up this early? Well, I've got a flight to catch to Asuncion, Paraguay. Paraguay might sound like a random destination, but there's actually a very simple and specific reason why people are flocking to Paraguay right now. But I will cover the secret a little later in the video. For now, I've got to get my bags packed and head straight to the airport. In Paraguay, I got asked a bunch of questions at immigration, but not the one I was worried about, which was the one about yellow fever vaccine. I was warned by the airline that I needed to get that done before the trip, but did not have time to do it. So I'm so relieved they did not ask for the vaccine certificate. And now I'm officially in Paraguay. So obviously got to get to the Airbnb, and then I am catching up with my friends here straight away. We're gonna have Asado at their place. So let's see what Asuncion has to offer. All right, guys, just arrived at the Airbnb. It's looking pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with this. Very modern, great price, which I think is pretty common here in Asuncion. Massive king bed. This should do nicely as long as the internet speed is good. Now I'm gonna get changed and head straight over to Nick's. All right, guys, so now that I've arrived in Paraguay, I think it's about time I reveal why I made the trip over from Brazil. I'm actually here to meet with a guy by the name of Jeremy, who's going to take me through the process of gaining a tax residency here in Paraguay. Why Paraguay? Well, it's one of the most popular tax residencies going at the moment, given that Paraguay is a territorial tax system. And apparently, in order to maintain the residency, there is no requirement to actually remain in the country. But of course, I'm not a Paraguayan tax expert myself. So today I'm having my first meeting with Jeremy, also known as Jerz, to go through the entire process. All right, guys, so I've caught up with Jeremy from TheJerzWay. He is the expert who I'm speaking to here in Paraguay about the Paraguayan tax residency. For the people that don't know, what is it and why is it so popular at the moment?
People are more and more deciding and realizing that Paraguay is the best tax residency in the world. And the reason is it is currently the only country that allows you to establish a tax residency without physical presence. So what that means is you come here, you get the residency, you set yourself up in the tax system, and other than coming to change the temporary residency to permanent residency, which you have to do in 2 years, and then coming one day every 3 years after you have permanent residency, Paraguay does not require you to spend any time in the country, and you're still able to use it as your primary tax residency.
Nice. So I'm here in Paraguay. I'm going to go through the full process. Give us a little preview on what we need to go through to get this thing done here in Paraguay.
So now we have Chris's documents. We will go to a couple appointments. One is at a local police station. We'll go to an Interpol office, and we'll go to migrations.
All right, just finished up at Interpol here. This is the second of the 2 police stops that I had to do. First one, we've already got the certificate for. This one, I've done 2 sets of fingerprints in ink, and now we just wait for a signature, and then we're gonna have the Interpol certificate back as well. And then we take all of this stuff to migration tomorrow. All right, guys, so I'm here at the final stop with all my required documents. We've got the local police certificates, which we got yesterday, the Interpol police certificate, which we also got yesterday, just signed this morning. And then the documents that I needed to bring from Australia. So we've got, sorry, a bit windy, the police report from my own country, from the Australian Federal Police, and the birth certificate here. So these you have to get from your own country beforehand, so look into that for your own country. And they need to be apostilled as well. With all of these documents, it should be just a simple matter of going in and getting the residency. All right, so the process is now done, and I'm officially a resident of Paraguay. That's right, isn't it?
It is.
I've got this nice little yellow piece of paper, but the cedula, which is the more functional part of this residency, is going to be coming out in about a few months, right?
Correct.
It's about lunchtime, and I want to give Jerz the opportunity to talk about why you would actually want to do this. So yeah, let's catch lunch and discuss for the people why you would actually want to be a Paraguayan tax resident.
Sounds good. Let's go.
All right, so we've heard about what this is and why it's so popular at the moment, but you still might be wondering, is this thing for me? So Jerz, who is it for?
I would say it's primarily for 2 different groups of people. The first we touched on before, which is the tax optimization folks. The second is the Plan B folks. And I'll briefly explain the 2. The tax optimization, Paraguay is the only country in the world that allows you to claim a tax residency without any fiscal presence. So a lot of people are doing this just to be able to use the country as a tax domicile, to pay tax, or in most cases pay no tax in this country, and it's a tax strategy. The second group of people, your Plan B people, I call. People who are saying, hey, the world's very unstable, there are a lot of issues, we don't know what's gonna happen. In the event that the worst case does come to fruition, Paraguay is going to be one of the best places in the world. It's a small country. It's not affected by a lot of the geopolitical problems in the rest of the world. And it's a great Plan B. I really think it's one of the best out there.
Amazing. Well, for me, I'm now a resident, and it's just a matter of waiting for the cedula, which Jerz is going to mail out to me when it comes available. And so I'm really looking forward to that. The process has been so smooth coming here. I'm so glad that I got my documents in on time. And if you want to do something similar, I'm sure that you can get in touch with Jerz. How do you want the people to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. We are more than happy to help. You can reach out to us. We're on most of the social medias, TheJerzWay. That's TheJerz, spelled Jerz, way.com, and happy to help.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, man.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
my pleasure.
All right, guys, just packed up here in Paraguay, ready to head back to Brazil today. I obviously decided to make the tax residency the primary focus of this video, but obviously Asuncion and Paraguay as a whole is somewhere you might want to come to regardless of the tax residency. So I'll tell you what I got up to while I was here as well, and share with you a few insights for your trip here if you do decide to come. So after that first Asado at Nick's on my first night, The next day I woke up and I went straight in a van with those guys over to Ciudad del Este. This is the border town with Argentina and Brazil, and the nearest city in Paraguay to access the Iguazu Falls, the famous Iguazu Falls. Wow guys, this is actually incredible. Largest waterfall system in the world. Iguazu Falls. They've done a great job of setting this up for tourists to look at. So that was a cool experience, but we also checked out the city of Ciudad del Este. Really interesting city. It almost reminded me of like a Bangkok or somewhere in Southeast Asia. Plenty of cheap electronics to buy. Paraguay is a little bit of a tax haven, and because it's close to the border next to Argentina and Brazil, a lot of people from those countries come over to buy cheap electronics and just cheaper things in general. We went to a mall on Good Friday that was just packed with Brazilians, and they even had prices in Brazilian reais, which was interesting. Not sure why you would want to stay there long term if you did, but a lot of people, I believe, are in the import-export business that live there. Unfortunately, the city was quite dead on the weekend we went to, which was Easter weekend. So on Good Friday, which was our last day, we tried to even find a cafe that was open and couldn't find anything. So yeah, Ciudad del Este would have been good to go on a week that wasn't filled with public holidays, but interesting all the same. Worth a visit if you want to check out the Iguazu Falls. And then on return to Asuncion, it was straight into another asado. Asado being the word for barbecue basically in Spanish, but they have a different way of doing it. And this second one was nowhere near the final asado that we had in Paraguay. It was the thing to do, given the meat was so cheap here in this country. That Sunday, I went to check out the downtown of Asuncion, but it was quite dead. Again, it was Easter weekend. It was Easter Sunday. So the city was quite dead. I don't know if it's usually more lively on a Sunday. There are only a few restaurants open across from the Pantheon of Heroes that we checked out, and we dined at one of them, had these giant Milanesas that we couldn't finish. And then last week, I launched into my first full week in Asuncion. If you want to work from cafes, there's a pretty good scene in Asuncion. If you stay around this area, the Recoleta Villa Mora area, which I'll talk about a little later. Asuncion seems to have a pretty good work from cafes culture, but they're pretty normal cafes, not ones with incredible ergonomics like you might find in Bali. Just pretty standard cafes with Wi-Fi. They're okay with you working on your computer, but for me, after trying out a few of them, I ended up going back to my Airbnb and just working from home because I really needed some proper ergonomics and stability. Unfortunately, from what I've heard and seen, there isn't really a great co-working option for digital nomads in Asuncion. In fact, some of the people I'm talking to are looking to start one here, which I think would be a great business given the amount of nomads here. And just on the topic of nomads, there's a surprisingly big community here. I made an Instagram reel / TikTok recently about how Asuncion feels like Chiang Mai for me back in like 2016, 17, because it's this low-key city that not many people have heard of. It's not a global city with a global brand, yet there's a surprising number of expats here. I think it's a lot to do with the tax residency, but people come for that and stay for other reasons. And some people don't even care about that thing. They just like that it's cheap and that it's safe relatively compared to the rest of Latin America. I felt the safest I've felt in probably any Latin American city here in Asuncion. So if you do come here and want to connect with other foreigners, I think that is going to be quite easy because there's a lot of them here. In terms of gyms, I just worked out at SmartFit, which I still had my membership from Brazil. Luckily, I was still able to use my membership from Brazil. I wasn't sure because I was using my CPF, which is a national number in Brazil, but that CPF doubled as a membership number to any SmartFit. So I was able to access that. The only problem is that SmartFit doesn't have as many locations in Asuncion and Paraguay as they do in Brazil. So I had to travel via Uber or a long walk over to the basement of Shopping Del Sol every time I wanted to hit the weights. And speaking of Shopping Del Sol, I think this is the landmark that you should be looking at when you're booking your trip to Asuncion. Anything close to this shopping mall is a good area. Not saying that where I'm staying here in Recoleta is a bad area, but all my friends stayed near Shopping Del Sol. The gym was at Shopping Del Sol. I ended up finding myself catching an Uber almost every day up to Shopping Del Sol and back. So to save yourself that hassle, I would book your accommodation close to Shopping Del Sol. But basically, Both areas are fine. I wouldn't book anything in Centro, as is the case in most Latin American cities. Centro is not the most desirable area. The upmarket sort of expat area you should be looking at is Villa Morta and its surrounding neighborhoods. The next weekend, I headed back to Centro to check out the Palacio de López, which is the most famous and iconic building in Asuncion, and hung out at the cafe across from the Palacio, which honestly has the best view in all of Asuncion. Also, I heard that there's a pretty big paddle scene, but I didn't actually get involved in any of that. It wasn't so easy to organize a game here, but one of my new friends here, Graham, organized a pickleball game, which is something, I guess, similar at a tennis center here. And so I had my first time playing pickleball. Like I said, I think there's a lot of foreigners out here that are playing sports, especially paddle. So that is a good way to connect with the foreigner community and keep fit and have a hobby here in Asuncion. So overall, Asuncion, if I had to summarize it, it's a pretty low-key, pretty reliable, pretty stable city with a low cost of living, a pretty big expat community of other people looking to take advantage of the tax haven. But if I'm being honest, it's not somewhere that's exciting enough for me to live full time. That was never the plan coming here anyway. I picked up the residency for other reasons, but I met a ton of people here that do love it. And obviously, if you want to become a resident of Paraguay as well, there are plenty of services that do that, including Jeremy, who already gave his information earlier in the video. Honestly, it was surprising how quick and smooth the process was. If I had to figure it out myself, I just wouldn't have, especially with the language barrier and everything. So I definitely recommend, if you want the residency, to hire someone to take you through that process. But yeah, now it's just a matter of coming back in 1 year and 9 months to turn that temporary residency into a permanent residency. So I'll look to return to Paraguay around that time in what looks to be early 2027. All right, guys, so I'm gonna leave it there for the video. If you wanna get in touch with Jeremy, his details we talked about earlier in the video. And if you're interested in learning what it is I do for work in order to be able to travel, work remotely, and possibly even live in Asuncion if I wanted to, check out the description as well for a link to a video that explains what it is I do for work if you're interested in possibly doing the same. As always, guys, if you liked the video, like it, leave a comment below if you have something to say, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Ciao.